Hi Elena, this is Bev. Okay, Elena, let's take a look at your tasks. You'll see that I've marked some areas in green and yellow, okay? You said that you're getting frustrated with not being able to go from a band 7 to a band 8, okay? I've attached to your email a copy, a public version of the criteria that the examiners use when they mark your papers. And looking at the essays that you've submitted, what's keeping you from going up to a band 8 is your lexical resource or vocabulary usage and some grammar points. Okay, your task response is fine. You are answering the question. You are laying everything out, so your coherence and cohesion is good. Your paragraphing is good. Your argument is good, but you're making minor errors which all add up. And if you look at the criteria, they don't penalize you for the occasional error, but if it's a pattern of errors, then you don't go up the next band. Okay, so that's why I've highlighted it, and I'd like you to have a look at the criteria between a band 7 and a band 8, and you can see what you need to do to pull yourself from a band 7 to a band 8. Okay, so let's go through your task 1. You say the 3 pie charts illustrate the distribution of money spent, and this should be by the councils in 3 regions, namely Yorkshire, Derbyshire and Lancashire in 2014. Good. The expenses are shown, you could say, or represented or distributed among 6 categories. Okay, so that's a minor spelling error, but it starts to add up if it's more than one. Okay, so 6 categories, and I wouldn't say categories, I would say areas of expenditure. Okay, education, community care. Now, because it's a category, it's a name, it's a label, so that would have to be a capital C. Okay, social services is a label, it's a name, it's capitalized. Okay, it is immediately apparent, that's great, that spending on education and leisure was the highest in all 3 regions. The percentage, I wouldn't say of money, you want to rather say percentage of the budget spent on these areas. So they're not items, they're not physical things that you can pick up like a book or a tablet, okay? However, differs from region to region, okay? And I would be hesitant to use the word region because the area that we are talking about is specifically those 3 council areas, okay? So you need to be very specific in your task 1. So you need to say differs from council to council, okay? In Lancaster, expenditure on these areas was similar, accounting for just under 1/3 of the total in each category, okay? So that is also a grammar, okay, error to look at. While in Yorkshire, the share of education costs, with an O, right, was also about 1/3, okay? Leisure expenses was just over a quarter. In Derbyshire, in contrast, more than 1/3 of the budget or the allowance or the annual allowance was spent on leisure and a quarter on education. Sorry, I meant to mention here, you've put Lancaster, but the council's name is actually Lancashire. Okay? So be careful that you put exactly the same information as what's on the charts. Whereas all 3, and it's not countries, but councils, okay, spent approximately the same proportion, no S, okay, no S there, of their budget, okay, they each have one budget, on environment and other. The share of spending or expenditure on community care capital in Derbyshire and Yorkshire was higher than in Lancashire. On the other hand, the percentage of expenditure on social services capital in Derbyshire was significantly lower than in the other 2 regions. Okay, because it's not random regions, it's those two specific other regions. Okay, Overall, education and leisure spending was the highest in all three regions, followed by community care capital in Derbyshire and Yorkshire. Okay, so Elena, as I say, you've got your coherence, cohesion, you've got your task response. You need to just tidy up your word choices, your spelling, and your grammar. This spelling and grammar, your level of English is very high. I'm sure you know it, and it's just these minor little things. But when they become several, it changes your band score. If you make one or two errors, it doesn't usually make much of a difference. But if you look at all the greens and the yellows, that's what keeps you from going up to the next band. Okay, so do be careful. All right, let's take a look at your task 2 response. Okay, so your word count is spot on, that's fine. So let's take a look. Nowadays, some people argue that traditional school education does not reflect the requirements of the modern world and does not develop talents children have. This essay will discuss whether there may be alternative ways to educate young people and whether modern schooling cultivates, a lovely word, or damages children's natural abilities. I don't know if damages is the best word. I would possibly use a word like inhibits or sabotages. Okay, so I'm going to put that in yellow for you as looking for an alternative word. Okay, many people are becoming aware that I wouldn't say revolution. Revolution usually is associated with something violent, like the French Revolution. Okay, it's when people. It's a very, very strong word. But I think what you want to say is that there needs to be a total 360-degree revision of what is needed in modern schooling. Okay, so go and have a look at some other words that you could use to express that meaning. Okay, and some countries already have education systems where, and that's a spelling. Okay, that's vocabulary. Children thrive. Lovely word, thrive. Okay, good. Well, school education in most countries is based on standardization, competition, and ongoing assessment. There are countries where children are taught differently. In Finland, for example, other methods like working in groups or group work. Okay, so you need to rephrase that. So you'd either say other methods like working in groups or group work, peer help, and discretionary choice of supplementary subjects, and the absence of midterm testing are used in educational institutions. This means that individual talents of all children are, you've put addresses. I think what you wanted to say is addressed, which is grammar. But usually we use this word to address something when we are attempting to solve a problem. So I wouldn't say that that would be the best word choice, okay? Especially if you're going for an 8, okay? So you want to say this means that the individual talents of all children are supported, okay, are encouraged, okay? Go and look for some synonyms that you could use there, okay? And if you were using the word addressed, that didn't have to be in the past tense as you've put it there. Okay, so this is grammar and vocabulary, okay? As a result, according to worldwide research, okay, so that's grammar. This research is plural on its own, okay? Finland has one of the best education systems in the world. Okay, good. Traditional education systems, okay, that's grammar. In most developed countries, you're talking plural, so were built. Okay. An education system is not necessarily built, but it's developed or created. Okay, so I would say go and look for a better word there. Okay, if you want your 8, were designed or created to address the needs of an industrialized society. of the 20th century. And in my opinion, it brings more damage than benefit. Okay, can't bring, but you can say it creates more damage, okay? And I'd look for a better phrase than that. I would say it breaks down or disables any kind of possible alternative creative thinking, okay? So it brings more damage than benefits, okay? So that would be grammar. In the modern world, where creativity and flexibility are often have more value. Okay, so you take out the R, so that's grammar. Okay, you'd say often have more value than a standard set of academic knowledge. Okay, you wouldn't have set, you would just say have more value than standard academic knowledge. So you'd have to remove that. Okay, so that's grammar. That one. So this here, you wouldn't have a standard set of. You would just have has more value than standard academic knowledge. Okay, schooling is too standardized in most countries and often tends. Okay, that's grammar. To pay very little attention to a vast variety of talents children have. Because of this, children's diverse. What I would also suggest, Jalena, you've used the word children a lot. You could interchange that with students and pupils, okay, to show the examiner that you have a diverse range of, a wide range of vocabulary. So I'm just going to highlight this in yellow for you as vocabulary, and go and have a look at a variety of words that you could use to refer to the same group of people. Are often suppressed rather than fostered. That's the word, fostered. Wonderful word. Okay, in conclusion, I believe that positive experience of customization rather than standardization of education systems in some countries should be analyzed and implemented more widely, as current schooling tends to suppress a child's talent rather than develop it. Okay, your introduction and your conclusion are perfect. They are 8s, if not even maybe 9s, okay? But you can see that you're making minor grammar errors, and your vocabulary word choice could be better, okay? And you see that it is, when it becomes a pattern, then you don't make that band score, you get penalized. If it's just the occasional error, it can be overlooked, and it doesn't prevent you from going up, okay? Go and read the criteria, which I would have, I'm going to attach in your email. Okay, Elena, I hope this helps you to see what you need to work on. Okay.